Hello, viewers. Welcome to One Stop All Poetry Solution. Since we have reached the 100 mark subscription, I heartily congratulate and thank you all for making us, the channel, reach a level where we can work for better improvement and providing better video content. So now our aim is for bigger targets and bigger goals. I hope you will stay with us. So, in this poem, we are going to talk about the trains by Humayun Kabir. You see, life is a kind of the journey where one has myriad experiences, and the experience of the poet, where he is speaking in this poem in his own words, the experience of the poet can both be taken on an imaginative as well as on a literal level. So, let's start with the poem. Mother, I sit by my window for hours on end and watch the long trains rumble past. Some are dark and journey tediously, no doors, no windows, no shining lamps. Slowly they move like huge elephants that move like shadows on the shadowy dark. So you see in this poem, just like life, where everything is moving fast, where everything is so happening, we see that the poet as a little boy is watching the trains rumbling past, moving along the tracks quite noisily. Some are very dark because probably they are the goods train, and some journey tirelessly because they are moving at such a fast pace, and it seems that the trains are not at all tired without getting tired. That's why tirelessly. And goods trains, you see, they do not have proper doors or windows because they are like carriages, closed carriages, and there are no lamps, unlike the passenger trains. Slowly they move like huge elephants. So they move slowly because they are loaded. It's a goods train and they are loaded. That is the reason that they have been compared to elephant, and the poet here uses a simile here. They move like dark figures in the darkness of the night. So they move like shadows in the darkness. Again, simile have been used here. So this stanza, you see, can be compared to the dark phase of the life with lots of trouble which passes slowly, right? And you will see in the next stanza also, when I explain that the first and the second stanza, in fact, we can compare it with the experiences of our lives. The trains are moving at speed, the experiences that we are experiencing, the experiences that we are, seeing it before us, happening before us, they are like the experiences of our lives. So the trains has been compared to the lives on a metaphorical level. Now let's move on to the next stanza. With many windows, sometimes a train comes flashing past, with many windows lit by many lamps, that dance and whirl with movement swift, a marriage procession with music loud, shrill whistles that rise above the din of the rhythmic beat of wheels revolving fast. So that is how the train moves. And the train moves at great speed with flashing lights. Since it's moving so fast, the lights are flashing by, and the windows are lit by many lamps. And what are the movements that appear to the poet, and how do they appeal to him? They dance and whirl. They are like dancing because there is a jerk. They turn promptly in a circular movement. So that is the kind of movement that has been described. And a marriage procession. So here there has been a usage of metaphor here. The trains have been compared to a marriage procession, right, with loud music, because the movement along the tracks is like the myriad noises, the myriad sounds that are produced by the marriage procession. Shrill whistles that rise above the din. So there is a lot of noise all around. The approach of the train has to be, you see, the whistle has to reach to one and to all. So it whistles above the common sound of the rhythmic beat of the wheels revolving fast. It's moving fast. It has to reach its target. It has to reach its goal. So why should it wait, or for what should it wait? The wheels are revolving fast along the iron tracks, and it is making a unique noise. Now you see, as I was telling, that here there is everything that is happening quite fast. Life is, as I already told at the beginning of the poem, that life is like a journey where you have to experience, and maybe sadly, maybe happily, but you have to undergo lots of experiences. So after the first stanza's dark phase, Here everything is happening at a fast pace, and here and there we see glimpses of light. So according to me, I would like to interpret these lights as hopes in our life when we experience the dark phase, right? So these can be compared to the lights that give us rays of hope, that helps us to keep going during the times of crisis, right? So in the first stanza, what did we do? Darkness. And in the second stanza, what did we learn? About the rays of hopes that have been compared. So these are on a metaphorical level, and on a literal level, it is the trains. Now let's move on to the third stanza. On hot afternoons you go to sleep, and with dizzy heat swoons all the world. Even the crows doze and forget to caw, the dog lies in shade with hanging tongue. I watch for hours, and still the tireless trains march on and on along their iron road. So what is the poet or the speaker telling? That on the hot afternoons the speaker or the poet's mother falls asleep, takes an afternoon nap, and I hope you know what an afternoon nap is also known as. It is called siesta, right? So keep this in mind. And with faint and dizziness all around, because the heat is so tremendous during the summer days, especially with reference to India and in the Indian context if we consider. So all the world here, let's focus to India, because to a little boy who has seen very little or has been exposed to little of the world, this world is like his neighborhood, his locality, and India. So let's focus on that. Okay, on a larger perspective, it can really mean the world. So everything has slowed down, life has slowed down. Okay, the crows have also, like, they are dozing, they are literally falling asleep, and the dog is feeling so hot that its tongue is hanging out, it's thirsty, it is tired, it's feeling hot. However, what happens? The poet watches the tireless journey of the trains. Nothing can stop the trains. In spite of the darkness, the dark shadowy nights, in spite of the loud music, or when people are working amidst the din, whatever it is, the train is journeying tirelessly. Okay, and the poet watches the tireless journey of the train march on and on. So see the endlessness, the ceaseless movement of the trains that has been used quite rightly here. March on and all along their iron road. Why iron road? Because the tracks are made of iron, right? So you see, this stanza, when compared to life, can be said to make us feel tired of the repetitive movement in our life and the daily activities which we perform ceaselessly. We get tired, right? When you come home from school, you are like, oh my god, such a rough day, such a long day, you feel tired. That is because, not because of going to school, but because of performing the repetitive activities. And it happens with each and every one of us, school goers, office goers, every one of us, right? So let's move on to the next stanza. Sometimes at night in my sleep I hear the low distant rumble of the train. So the train is also rumbling. As the day draws to a close, is drawing to a close, let's put it in continuous. As the day is drawing to a close, the poet or the speaker can hear the distant rumble. It is from a far off distance. Like when you are in your bed, when you are asleep or just about to fall asleep, when there is so much silence all around, try to concentrate a little bit, and you will see that if there is nearest railway station, you will be able to hear faint sound at night of trains. It may be the goods train, sometimes it may be the long distance passenger trains also. So that kind of a sound is heard by the poet. I rub my eyes and sit upon my bed, and beneath the light of the flickering moon moves the long shadowy outline far away, like a huge serpent crawling through the night. So there has been lots of usage of similes and metaphor here also. The largest metaphor is the trains compared to the life, and here again you see like a huge serpent simile. So the poet is telling that he can hear the faint rumble of the trains at night, and when he hears the faint rumble, when he hears the faint sound, immediately he gets up from his sleep. and he rubs his eyes because he's sleepy, and he rubs the sleep off his eyes and gets up on his bed. And beneath the light of the flickering moon, the light of the rays of the moon, the wavering rays of the moon, because the clouds have come to hide the moon, it's the rays are not coming in quite clearly, so that is the reason why the waves are the rays are wavering. Or it may be that if there is a thick foliage all around, if there are huge trees, the rays cannot penetrate quite easily, like you can see in the case of the sun also, especially in the forest, right? So I'm not telling that he's residing in some forest area or something, but if there are large number of trees around, you don't get to see the light quite easily. So under those flickering light of the moon, the train is moving. It does not matter to the train what is happening. And so what does the poet see? The poet sees the silhouette of the train, right? Like a huge serpent crawling through the night. So like a serpent it moves. Where do all these trains go day and night? You say they bore their way through the hills. So he is talking to his mother and he is telling that they bore their way through these hills. So his mother has already informed that they travel by penetrating through the ways of the hills. They rode over bridges. They travel across bridges which are built over the mighty rivers, right? They rode over bridges across mighty streams. So these bridges are also crossed. They crashed through forest and vast plains, but at the end of their restless journey, where do they go and finally rest? So just see, a little boy naive questions, how sweetly he asks. So he asks, where do the trains finally rest after after their long journey? Where do they go? So the curiosity of the poet or the speaker remains within him, and probably it remains unanswered also, right? So while watching the trains constantly running on the iron tracks, he is filled with pity because he feels that they have been running on the rails for a long time. He is naive and unaware of the fact that engines pull the trains ahead. He feels that their job is tedious and nerve wracking. So it is something that he gives humanly attributes to the trains, right? So he personifies the trains, that it is feeling tired, it is journeying for such a long distance, probably it is thirsty, it might fall asleep. These human attributes, because he's just a child, and child has all these naive theories in his mind, which is quite natural for him because he's learning to explore the world anew, right? And it also brings us to another point which we should keep in mind, that since we are comparing the life to the journey, comparing the trains to the journey of our life or to lives in general, the fact that life in this final stanza can be compared to the phase or the part of the day where we should take rest, where we should stop, where we should pause a little before again starting afresh, right? Break is necessary when you have to take a rest so that you can rejuvenate yourself, you can re-energize yourself and move ahead. That is of practical importance. So it is a very simple poem. I hope you have understood it, and this was a new attempt that I made. I hope I have lived up to it to a certain extent, and in the next videos I promise it will be much better. So let's do a quick revision. In the first stanza, we learned that the first stanza can be compared to the dark phase of the life. Okay, so everything is darkness there, the dark phase of the life where we might be facing lots of trouble, right? In the second stanza, we can compare it to where we are seeing the glimpses or the flashes of light. Again, in the third stanza, there is tediousness, tiresome journey. In the fourth stanza, there is a slight movement, but the speed is slowing down. And finally, it ends in the last stanza, where it is like we should take a break before we start again for the day, right? So that is what brings us to the end of the poem. Go through the poem. If you want me to discuss something else, please feel free to comment in the comment section. Feel free to tell me what should be improvised upon, because this is a new thing. And as we are nearing the end of the video, please don't forget to drop a like and share and subscribe as much as you can, and we are aiming for bigger goals So, until we meet again, take care and happy learning.